Welcome to Season 5 of the Shock Your Potential podcast. I am your host, best-selling author and international speaker, Michael Sherlock. The Shock Your Potential podcast is dedicated to entrepreneurs looking to up their game, increase their income, and to scale their businesses to new heights. Shock Your Potential is a professional services company providing affordable services to small businesses, matching entrepreneurs with virtual assistants, and offering specialized leadership and sales training to companies around the world. Learn more today at shockyourpotential.com and listen in now to another exceptional episode that will help you to shock your potential. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Shock Your Potential. I am your host, Michael Sherlock. As always, that does not change. And all month long, we are talking to some amazing, fierce, and fabulous female entrepreneurs. Why? Because it's my show and I said so. And my guest today, we have already been having so much fun before we hit the play button. So you are going to love this, especially because we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics. You all know what that is, but we'll get there in a second. So for over a decade, Annie P. Ruggles has harnessed her Hulk-like disdain for hardcore sales, tacky self-promotion, and overly competitive sleazeballs as her inspiration to help people find better ways to grow their small businesses. Now, she's also the founder of the Non-Sleazy Sales Academy. And through that, she's guided hundreds of people towards making deeper connections, lasting impressions, and friendlier, more lucrative, as we all like to have, conversations and transactions in those businesses. Her pride and joy is her podcast, though, and I think we're going to try and have a podcast crossover, but it's called Too Legitimate to Quit, Instantly Actionable Small Business Strategies with a Pop Culture Spin. I can't wait to do that. And joining me today is Annie. Thank you so much for being with us today, Annie.
Michael, I am so freaking jazzed to be here with you today.
We are going to have a great time. And you know, I love talking about sales. It's one thing that just makes me so excited. And I always love it when people are like, I hate sales. And I'm like, wait, what? Let's sit down and have some fun with that.
Heck yes, absolutely.
Because most of the time what they mean is, I hate sales that feels icky, right, which we all do. And I always remind them, that's not sales, that's sleaze. So
amen, hallelujah. Episode over. Hope you all have enjoyed the show. I'm going home now.
And drop the mic.
Boom. And I didn't even have to say anything. Thanks, Michael.
I love it. Well, I did hit your highlights of your bio and I did say a lot about you, but I want you to tell us a little bit more in your own words. Tell us a little bit more about you and your business and how you, through your podcast, your academy, you help people to shock their sales potential.
I had to shock my own freaking potential. And what really did that was that I have sales potential.
Yeah.
Because for years I knew I am a problem solver. I am a people lover. I will go to the mattresses to make sure that the people that need to be successful are getting ahead in this world, especially if they're the kind of people that are driving forward with ethics and integrity. And I knew that I had that. I knew I was a pretty good writer. I knew that I was a pretty flaily Muppet. I knew that when I talked, people tended to listen, right? And I had all of these skills, but I didn't really actually do anything with that because I was unwilling to sell. So I would draw in this huge network, all this attention, all of these likes. My Facebook group was popping, right? Like all this stuff. And then people would be like, Annie, how do I hire you? And I'd be like, yeah, well, just give me like $25 and you can get this program that took me like 3 years to make. And then if you want to do like a one-on-one, you can like whatever. And I did that for years. And I called it a business, which is a joke because it wasn't. But I was one of those people, Michael, that you just said, were like, I can't sell. Selling is nasty. Selling is gross. Selling is a assortment of activities that make me feel out of integrity. I'm never, ever, ever going to do that. And money apparently is the devil. So I should just be upset and be poor and help people for free until I die. And I'm
only
really
laughing because I totally know everything you're saying.
I mean, and that was the thing is, and I could have gone on like that forever.
Yeah.
Except My health was failing. I was stuck in huge adrenal fatigue. My business wasn't growing. I got stuck taking white label consulting job after white label consulting job. And I just realized, whoa, 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 something's got to give here. Why isn't my business growing? And you know what it was actually, Michael, that really did shock me into shocking my potential? I watched my clients suffer. And I thought, why are my clients suffering? I saw it in them before I could see it in me, which was really embarrassing because I realized that they were modeling me. And they were getting people to fall so in love with them. And then they were not asking for anything in return. And I thought, well, why are they doing that? They were learning that from me. And so I thought there's got to be a better way to do this. And so I stopped everything I was doing and I dedicated my life to figuring it out. I wasn't expecting to teach sales then. I just wanted my clients to be able to get ahead. And I thought, if I can model this, if I can be client zero yet again, if I can nail this, then my clients will succeed. And just so happens along the way, everything I learned about how to sell and sell beautifully is so in alignment with me. And everything that was out of alignment with me was so easy to change or fix. And so really how I help people shock their potential now is showing them the beautiful, benevolent, charitable, generous, incredible, profitable, badass salesperson inside these do-good entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And for me, sales has always been natural. Like I don't ever think about it. To me, it never has felt bad.
Lucky.
Because to me, it was never about trying to close a sale. It was about if it's the right time, the right situation, it will happen. And so for me, it's always been about questions. If I ask somebody enough questions and they say yes enough times to different things that feel like it's a fit, then before you know it, they're like, well, what do we do next? I'm like, well, are you ready to sign a contract? Yes, I am. Okay, cool. Here it is. Right. And so to me, it's always come effortlessly, but along the way, I realized how many other people had, just exactly what you described, these, anxiety or angst, or what if it's bad, or I don't want to take advantage of somebody, until the point where you're like, but wait, who's losing in this? Not only am I losing in my business, but I'm also not satisfying people's, what they need, because there's a gap that I'm not taking the last steps with. So if the first 10 steps weren't comfortable, and I can't get to the last steps, maybe I better, like you said, become patient zero again, or client zero, and figure out the steps again.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just being a cosmic tease. And that's what I was being like, hey, your life could be awesome. You could go from A to Z. You could jump ahead. You could blah, blah, blah. You could da. And I see this all the time, especially with people that are selling like relationship coaching or health coaching or something like that. We're going, you can have love. You can have wholeness. You can have wellness. You can have success.
Yeah.
Except I'm not going to sell it to you. I'm just going to tell you can have it on the internet a whole lot in a whole bunch of really funny reels. And then when you reach out to me, I'm going to be completely inaccessible to you and totally ignore you and shut you down. Isn't that fun? And then once you realize that I'm not going to help you, you're going to go find my sleaziest, loudest competitor, which has the best Facebook ads. And you're going to give the money that should have gone in my pocket into their pocket. And they're going to care less about you than I would have if I had just been willing to ask you for frickin' money. And I'm not judging people. If you hear me say that and you feel kind of or like nastily seen, please know that I'm not judging you. That was me. If it wasn't me, I wouldn't be here. But that was me with every fiber of my being. And it wasn't until I took a leap back that I looked at the unbelievable disservice I was doing both myself and my prospects.
And I totally get it, because you're absolutely right. When you don't provide something that somebody needs, but you are getting them excited about it, and they go to someone else that is working from a different premise, or even if they're working from the same premise, but you've let them go, there's that sense of what have I done? I didn't even give them the chance. They came to me because there was something about me that drew them in.
Right.
And if I send them somewhere else, shame on me, because I've let them down.
Yes. Yeah. A bajillion %. Yeah. A bajillion %. We put so much pressure on ourselves to be authentic and transparent and consistent in how we show up. And then we basically fall down in the last quarter mile of the marathon.
Yeah.
Right? We've taken them with us for 25 odd miles. We're about to get to the very, very end of the marathon. And then we're like, you know what? You finish this on your own. I'm going to go out to lunch. What?
Yeah.
What? It's not even the last mile. It's the last quarter mile. Like, you are literally words away from having the impact that you want to have. And so many of us just go, you know what? Those words are going to be a violation of the trust I've built. So better to leave it in this loving space. And that's understandable, and it'll kill your business.
Absolutely. Well, and I think too, people are hoping for, the magical sprinkle dust, whatever, pixie dust. And last year in March, our theme for the month with the podcast was the magic of marketing. And as I started out, everyone, I said, and we're all here because we're waiting for that magical marketing pixie dust, and we sprinkle it on our business, and boom, people are throwing money at us. And then I'm like, and y'all know that is a bunch of BS. Like, it does not work. But people will buy into programs that they think is going to be that magical pixie dust.
Yes.
And then when they get here's your script, follow this and people will fall into you. And then they do it. And then that doesn't feel good because it's not good. No. Then all that does is deepen the chasm between how you're trying to actually serve the people that you're here and meant to serve, because you've gone another step backwards by something that not only feels wrong, but is wrong, and it's not going to deliver results.
This is not the rant I think you were expecting, but if I may be so bold, everyone, please take that high-priced sales script you paid for, find the nearest lighter, a stove will also do, and light that sucker on fire, because it robs you of originality and it robs you of the most critical part of sales, which is the ability to listen to your freaking prospect. Oh, yes. I don't care how good you've been promised your script is. It's probably not that good, which is why my program doesn't include a script and never, ever will, because your job on a call is to listen and prescribe, not to word vomit on whatever unsuspecting victim you have lured into your web, homies. That is not your job, right? How can you possibly know if you're a fit for someone?
Right.
If you blather at them the entire time. Newsflash, you can't.
Yep.
I'm not mad at you if you all bought a sales script. I'm not mad at you. Take the verbiage out of it that you like, burn the rest, and make it a talking point instead of a script. But I promise you, listeners, I promise you, if you burn that script to the ground and use it as talking points instead, no matter what, with no other changes, your next sales call will far and away be better because you'll be present.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and for years, I managed a sales force of about 400 people, so 400 to 500 people at a time that were all in sales positions.
Just a couple of people, just a
couple. And we were, and we had sales scripts and people would get all upset about the sales script. I don't want to say the script. I don't want to read the script. I don't want to memorize a script. And it was funny how I couldn't get it across. The reason that I want you to read it and memorize it is not because I want you to say it like that.
Right.
I want you to listen to the words.
Yes.
I want you to listen to the questions. I want you to hear what you're asking and why and when you'd ask those questions. So for questions that are important, like what brings you in today? What made you pick up the phone and call me today?
Yes.
What about my program makes you interested today? Those answers are what will tell you whether or not you're a fit. But what's the urgency? How long has this been hurting someone? And I absolutely love that you say, listen and prescribe, because sometimes what you offer is not right for that person.
Amen. And if you have one offering, it's pass fail. Right? Yeah. If you have one for myriad reasons, maybe the timeline is wrong, the amount of energy or hand holding is wrong, the budget is wrong. That's a huge one, right? Yep. But if you have a ladder of services, did you ever watch The Price is Right, Michael?
Oh, yes. Okay. Oh, yes.
So on The Price is Right, they play that game Plinko, which is like the bed of nails and the hockey puck.
Yep.
I always teach my clients that on these calls, they should be playing Plinko with their ladder of services at the bottom in different buckets, right?
Yes.
And as they're playing along, they're going, oh, okay, well, she's got limited time. So that's going to go over toward this offering. Nope.
Yep.
She's got lots of budget and wants it done quickly. Okay, that's going to put her over here on the VIP tier. Oh, nope, she's got a team that she wants trained. That's got to go into the VIP sector, right? And so we're bouncing around based on their own data. And then you can turn around and you can say the phrase that has made me more money than any other phrase in my life. Everybody, please write this down.
I'm ready.
Based on what you just told me. Based on what you just told me. Now, here's the thing. When you were talking about the sales script and the pen of the 400, 500 people, the thing that you told them to listen for were the questions. Why now? Why today? Why this problem? Why us? You're listening for the questions. Heck yes. Get those answers, write them down, feed them back to the people and say, based on what you just told me about your timeline, your 2-year-old daughter's dance recital next Tuesday, and the desire to beat this specific competitor, the number one thing I would recommend from you out of my arsenal is this. I could offer you more, I could offer you less, but this is why I'm offering you this particular thing. That makes it the easiest sale ever because you are showing how the puzzle pieces fit.
Absolutely.
You cannot do that if you don't frickin' listen.
Yes, I so agree. And I have to tell you a quick funny story because this will make your head explode, but it also proves the lack of listening. I had somebody who was trying to sell me some of her services. I won't describe what her services were, but they were services I was interested in. Maybe not from her. I didn't get the right vibe from her, but I was curious, and it was the first person in this category I was going to just visit with. And so, you know, me, I want to watch somebody's sales approach, right? So she's asking me questions, but I can tell by the way she's asking me questions that she's working from a script, you know, because they're very much like, well, what would it mean to your business if you had this? Which is a fine question. It's a fine question, but it's a little better when you say, well, what would it mean to your business if you had this? Instead of, what would it mean to your business?
Business if you had this?
Exactly. So we get through and we're doing a Zoom call. And at some point she goes, do you mind if I share my screen? I want to show you something. And I said, sure, no problem. So she shares her screen and she has got, you know, one of those things like, where would you be on this? You know? So I'm even fine with that. That was okay. It was a little cheesy. Annie, she forgot that she was screen sharing and she went back to her script and pulled her script up.
No.
And it literally said, you know, ask this question, insert client name, you know, whatever, insert say name. And she'd be saying, blah, 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 Michael, blah, 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 blah. And I'm watching this and Annie, oh my God, I wanted so badly to tell her.
Stop screen sharing. Oh God.
But I couldn't, I just was like, I couldn't do it. It was a train wreck. I couldn't, but afterward I thought, I'd already gotten kind of not the right vibe from her anyway, but after that, I'm like,
I am crying for that poor girl. Oh no.
And all I thought of is somebody sold her that sales script and never taught her that maybe you should try and build a relationship first, because I really did want the services that she offered, but there's no way I was going to do that with her. And it's one of those, because you're just like, if you would have just instead asked me a couple questions.
Yeah.
We would have had a dialogue, and it might not have still been the right move, but I would have at least considered her for that.
I have a feeling that selling to you is a lot like selling to me. And I had something kind of similarly mortifying in a different way. It was over the phone, and it was a re-enrollment sale from somebody in a sales team. And I had a positive brand experience with the first one, so I was primed to buy. I was like, sure, tell me more about this offer. I'd love to hear about it. It's not a cold call, but it's an unsolicited call, but I have a good brand experience, so tell me. And it turns out that what they were selling was really reasonably priced and interesting. I was a little flush that month, and I thought, cool, I can reinvest. I said yes on the phone. I said, let me go get my wallet. That is what I said. I was about to give my credit card information over the freaking phone, which I never do. And this poor soul.
Oh, no.
This poor soul said, you know, I totally understand. I'm going to give you some time to think about it. I'll call you back on Tuesday.
Oh,
And hung up the
no.
phone.
Yes. Oh, no.
And hung up the phone. Now, Michael, pop quiz. Do you think she called me back on Tuesday?
No.
Do you think that I sought out that company to throw my money at them, not over the phone? No, I didn't. I was going to get my wallet. I said so verbatim more than once. And this poor, terrified soul on the phone was like, oh God, she said yes. Panic! Get off the phone!
Oh, my God.
What?
Oh, no.
What? And I walked around all weekend like, are you kidding me? My husband was like, babe, let it go. And I was like,
No.
I got to call this poor soul and be like, what are you doing? I'm like, no, she's not your client. Don't be pushy. But I'm like, it's kind of a nightmare to sell to me because I'm either going to tell you everything you're doing right or everything you're doing wrong. Yeah. Right?
I wouldn't have called her back. I would have called her supervisor and that person's supervisor and said, you need to hire me right now.
Be like, oh my sweet, sweet goodness. I hope no one listens in on that call because they probably read that poor child, the riot act. I was just like, oh no.
Well, she'd probably never been told anything else. So she might not have been listening because the only thing she probably ever heard was, I'll have to think about it. I'll get back to you.
Well, and that's part of sales baggage, right? That's part of sales trauma and the difference of selling something that you believe in when maybe you haven't had that before. It's very natural for us to go into selling situations if we have corporate sales trauma or, pit mentality. Let me say the script perfectly, blah, 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 blah. It's really easy to get onto those calls and assume that you're going to get a no. And when I listen to sales calls, and I listen to a lot of sales calls, I can absolutely always tell with certainty whether or not that person got on the phone assuming that they were going to get a no.
Yeah, I agree.
And it happens so often. And when that woman got on the phone with me, she assumed I'd be a no so ardently that multiple yeses could not dissuade her. Mm-hmm. That is terrifying and so easy to fall into when rejection has been your norm. So to anybody out there who has had to sell widgets or other people's junk in the past or other people's stuff by their standards, by their scripts, please don't carry that forward into selling your own stuff. It's a very, very, very different animal. And if you're infusing your heart, your soul, your essence, your being, your calling, your personality, any of that truth into it, it's not the same. So don't assume the no.
Well, and and to your point too, you have to understand what your baggage is. Yeah. So, for instance, for a huge portion of my career, I ran sales organization for selling hearing aids. We sold a product that no one wanted at a price tag no one wanted to pay. So when I said it's so important to say what brings you in today, I'd remind my people, look, nobody wakes up this morning and goes, guess what? Today, I'm going to get me some hearing aids. Woo! Ooh, it's party. We're going to go out for margaritas afterward. Nobody says that because nobody wants them. No. But what the baggage was with my salespeople, and that still is in this industry, is the price tag is something that none of my salespeople would ever want to pay. Yeah. And for many of them, it was something that would be prohibitive to them. Yeah. So saying the price, saying this set based on, and I love your example because this is how I do it all the time, based on what you've told me, Annie, about your hearing loss in these situations and what you're looking for and the kind of environment you're in, we have a lot of options. The one that I think best suits your need is a pair that's $7,000. I have a pair that's more and does more bells and whistles that cost more. I have others that don't, that are in a lower price range. But based on what you've told me, this is what I think, will work best for you. And saying that when my salespeople weren't comfortable with a $7,000 price tag was a lot of baggage.
It is a lot of baggage. And so first off, I love that you brought up this hearing aid example because my husband is half deaf and
Mm.
wears a hearing aid. So y'all don't forget about the deciders, because
Yeah.
Ryan didn't wake up that morning and go, I'm buying a hearing aid, but his wife sure did, because I would like to be able to be heard without screaming all the time in my own home. So, y'all don't forget about deciders and other people in the house. And if someone says they need to talk to their spouse, that's not a bad thing. It might be a great thing, because the spouse might be more excited about it than they are.
Exactly.
But the other point you brought up there, Michael, is this idea of what I call selling with our own wallet, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the need. I wouldn't pay for it. Therefore, the price isn't right. And I see this all the time with pricing, where people go, well, I mean, I wouldn't pay $250 an hour to talk to me. Well, of course you wouldn't. You're you. You don't have the problems you need, right? If I'm a hairstylist and I work in a salon next to 9 other stylists, I'm probably going to work out some kind of swap with the girl whose style I like most, and we're going to do each other's hair instead of paying for it. That doesn't mean I don't think my own rate is valuable to charge the person off the street, right? So if we're going, well, I sell coaching, but I wouldn't pay that for coaching, you don't have that problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You don't have that problem. And yet so often we assign value based on our own metrics. Get your wallet out of their brain. You don't know their financial situation. And all across the world right now, especially we're recording this days before Christmas. I know it's coming out in January, but all across the world, right now, this week of Christmas, people are dropping mad coin on dumb things and feeling great about it.
Exactly.
And that is their prerogative. If they want to drop $3,000 on a purse and they can afford it and that's going to feel luxurious and important to them, good for you, sister. But don't tell me that a life-changing protocol is not worth $300 when other people are buying a Coach bag that they won't even take out of the protective packaging just so they can put it on a shelf. Like, why not you? Right? That is you saying my spending habits are monolith. They aren't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great point. And if we had 2 hours, I could tell you and I could swap so many stories, because I have so many things popping in my head about it. I love it. But Annie, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from our sponsor for the month, and then we will be right back to continue this dialogue. Are you a highly sensitive individual? If you are part of the 20% of people whose nervous system is wired to take in more stimulation than others. This can feel overwhelming, trying to get by through coping and stuck in your shadows instead of your strengths. But it doesn't need to be that way. You can learn to be in charge of yourself, physically, spiritually, and financially, in a way that honors your highly sensitive self. Heather Dominick is the founder of BusinessMiracles.com, and she's been training highly sensitive entrepreneurs and leaders since 2010 to do things differently by working less and making more of a social impact and a higher income. Whether you've been in business for years or are just starting out, highly sensitive entrepreneurs are sick of trying to, usually secretly, manage overwhelm and other ways your highly sensitive nervous system tends to hijack and work against you. Now you're ready to learn how to be comfortable in your highly sensitive skin, to create your work and life to match who you truly are, so you can work less while making more impact and income. I should know, as a super uber highly sensitive entrepreneur myself, working with Heather and her team has changed my life and my businesses. To learn more, please use our affiliate link in the show notes or reach out to the Business Miracles team and tell them you heard about them from the Shock Your Potential podcast. Every listener who joins the Business Miracles program in 2022 will receive a selection of 5 best-selling books from our Shock Your Potential bookstore authors. Leading as a highly sensitive entrepreneur is a mindset to hold and an energy to embody. To lead means to show someone the way, to be in charge of. As a highly sensitive entrepreneur, this starts with learning how to be in charge of yourself first and your purpose second. And we are back with Annie P. Ruggles, and we are talking about my favorite subject, which is always about sales and the sales process. It just gets me so excited. I love having kindred spirits with it. But we're also talking about entrepreneurs. And, entrepreneurial journeys are not always easy. They're not always, what I want to say, like, not, they're messy. Sometimes they're messy.
Real messy.
We learn a lot about ourselves. Everybody wants to be their own boss until they're their own boss. And then they're like, that person I work for, I hate. And you're like, wait, that's me. But I think everyone that I interview has learned something about themselves, and they've learned what they've done well, what they've done wrong. They learned about their own secret sauce. Hopefully they're, using their secret sauce every day. But, tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. What have you learned about yourself as an entrepreneur that you can lean into today?
I have learned that my capacity for love and care for my clients is unmatched, but that is not going to be worth a hill of beans if I'm unwilling to include myself in my own success.
Oh, very good. Talk more about that.
Before I learned to love to sell, I was always available. I was always accessible. I was the queen of over delivering. I thought, surely they'll pay me without me asking them to if I make it so easy for them to just constantly receive from me. Hello, not so much, Annie. Wake up, girl. But I started to resent the people I was helping. And it wasn't their fault. It was my fault.
Right.
Because I couldn't hold them to the standards of giving back to me when I literally wasn't asking for anything.
Right.
If I go into a restaurant and I never order and they never bring me anything, whose fault is that?
Oh, great example.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I was sitting at the counter waiting to be fed. I wasn't asking for anything. And then I was sitting there going, well, I just rewrote your website on a whim at 3:00 in the morning on a Saturday, and you didn't even publicly thank me on Instagram. What gives? I didn't ask them to thank me on Instagram. Yeah. I didn't ask them for a testimonial or for a referral. I didn't want to bother them. But in the exact same breath, I would bend over backwards for them. That's not love, folks. That's masochism.
Yes.
If that was my romantic relationship, people would call it abuse.
Yes, absolutely.
I was keeping myself entrenched in that because in my mind, what I could give had to come before any idea of receiving.
Yes.
But the so freaking trite, oh my God, cliche, can't pour from an empty cup, put your airplane mask on first thing is entirely true. I can serve my clients so much better when I have food on my table. I can serve my clients so much better when I know where my next check is coming from. I can serve my clients so much better when I'm not up all night with insomnia wondering how I'm going to pay my team. It's just logical, right? But for me, nothing changed until I was willing to be ambitious, successful, driven, and profitable. All things that I did not think I identified with. Oh, I don't need to be big successful. I just want to be a little successful. I don't need to be rich. I just want to have a couple dollars in the bank. I don't need to be this. I don't, right? But I kept putting glass ceilings on myself.
Yeah.
And no one put those on me. I put those on me. I jumped out of the corporate net. I jumped out of the 401k lifestyle. I did that only to put myself in a very tiny, limited box of possibility.
Yeah. And
it wasn't until I was like, wait. Because I couldn't think of anything like I'm playing too small. Like that doesn't occur to me. Yeah. But I thought, I don't like working with these people anymore. And yesterday I loved them. Where is that? Yeah, that's resentment. That's burnout. That's pain. Right. And so truly now, every single thing in my business has got to be a win-win. If it's not a win-win, I'm out. And that's collaborations. That's client stuff. That's partnerships. That's anything. That's podcast interviews.
Yes,
If I don't think we're
absolutely.
going to have a great conversation, I'm not coming on your show and you're certainly not coming on mine.
Exactly.
Right? But for me, I can't show up authentically, transparency, and in full integrity if I'm not willing to receive. I just can't do it. And so for me, the path to get where I got has been invaluable, but it's been about 97 times longer and harder than it should have been. because I kept blindering myself.
Yeah. Well, and I love too, what a great example. You were talking, I mean, before we started taping, you said, hey, I listened to, a couple episodes of your podcast, especially people that you knew, and which I appreciate because not many of my guests do that beforehand. And I really do it. But before I'm a guest on somebody else's podcast, I certainly do. And then there's been ones that I've just made I'm sorry, I have a schedule change, and I remove myself from it if it doesn't feel like it's right. Yep. If it doesn't feel like, it's a good match, or if I don't feel the right vibe. And those are important things because my time is too valuable. And just because somebody wants me on their podcast doesn't mean that it's the right thing for me in my business. There's a time value that we have to pay attention to in order to make good decisions, without a doubt.
I love that example because so you brought up my beloved podcast before, Too Legitimate to Quit, Instantly Actionable Small Business Strategies with a Pop Culture Spin. And I bring that up because I get pitch emails constantly, as I know you do for Shock Your Potential. Yep. Here's the kicker, folks. Let me give you a little spoiler. If you send me an email telling me that you really like my podcast and that you want to be a guest on it, and you in no way mention the pop culture element that is in the freaking name of my show, I know that you're lying to me.
Oh, yeah.
I know that you're lying to me. Just like if you send me an email and you're like, Annie, you don't know me, but we need to talk about Ted Lasso on the podcast. Then I know that you've listened. I don't care if you have no list, no Instagram. I don't care if I couldn't point you out of a lineup. You come to me with your homework done, you're going to the top of the list, and Mr. 25,000 email been written up in Forbes blurdy blar, who sends me blanket scripty email saying how much he loves my show, is going to Hades because I don't want to be lied to. It's like, could you not even do 1 second of research, guys? Come on.
Well, and I don't know if you've seen this, but and I can't remember if I told you this. I've taped a couple podcasts today, but we have like over 200 people on a waiting list for our podcast for 2022. So we're
awesome.
You made the cut, Michael. Baby. Hey. But I get all these same emails and they're like, I love your podcast so much. I left a review for you, which I love. That's nice to get a review. It'd be nicer if you actually listen, because one of them, they said, and here's the review I left. The Shock Your Potential podcast is great. The host has so much to say. And I'm like, and I called that person on it. I'm like, by the way, just so you know, I totally know you didn't listen to my podcast because otherwise I'm a woman.
I'm a lady, Michael Fools. Oh my God.
And I think I did get that person to change it, but I was like, so in the future, if you'd like me to consider one of your great guests, don't screw it up.
Yeah, like maybe don't misgender the host, you dumbs. But like, come on, homies, do more than 1 second of research, please. Oh, like that's a whole other rant for a whole other episode. We already went on a rant about sales scripts. The blind emails, that's a whole other thing. Oh, Michael reined me in. I'm going nuts. I'm foaming at the mouth over here.
Annie, we could talk forever. I adore you, and I'm not making that up. That is not a line. I absolutely adore you. But you're right. We are running out of time. I know we're going to have all your contact information on our show notes, including links to your podcast, Too Legitimate to Quit, the instantly actionable small business strategies with a pop culture spin. Look, I got it all in there. We'll have all those links. But just in case somebody wants to look you up right now, because they're like, this woman is going to help me change my business, what's the best way for them to find you?
If you are in a learning consumption mode, if you're dabbling at this, please feel free to hit me up on my website, which is anniePruggles.com. It is a smorgasbord of learning. You can find all kinds of episodes and webinars and blah, 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 blah. But if you are in active sales avoidance, do not pass go. Do not collect $200. I want you to go directly to my Instagram or LinkedIn and tell me what you're up against by sending me a message. On Instagram, I'm at Anniepreneur. And on LinkedIn, just search for my name. Tell me what you're up against. I'll coach you in the moment through that sales avoidance. I want your next selling situation to be better. So if that's where you are right now, message me right now.
I love it. Anniepreneur too. I love that. That's fantastic.
Oh, thank you. And it's Annie PR-eneur, right? So it works.
Anniepreneur. It took me so long to be able to spell entrepreneur, man.
Oh, sometimes I still can. I just have to remember that the E's are always first.
There's a lot of E's in them. Well, before we go, do you have any last words of wisdom or pearls of advice for my listeners and viewers?
You are not allergic to sales. You are allergic to being sold to by buttheads. And none of that behavior that has hurt you in the past is required. But the art of the ask is. Find a way to ask that feels good. Do yourself a favor. Please. I almost killed my business so many times. I don't want that to happen to you. You are one ask away from greatness. Go get it.
I love it. Annie, you are fantastic. Your information is fantastic. Your energy is out of this world. Yay! Thank you so much for being with us today.
It has been a complete pleasure, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Shock Your Potential podcast. Learn more about us today at shockyourpotential.com, including details on Michael's 2 best-selling books. Tell me more, how to ask the right questions and get the most out of your employees, and sales mixology, why the most potent sales and customer experiences follow a recipe for success. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and like us today.